Welcome to our special series on Agentic AI for Government, brought to you by Salesforce. Artificial intelligence is evolving at a breathtaking speed, making it challenging for government leaders to grapple with how and where to best leverage it. However, one area gaining momentum is the emergence of Agentic AI and the shift from AI that can automate basic tasks or generate summaries to Agentic AI that can autonomously achieve workplace tasks. Here to provide some frontline observations on the growing impact of agentic AI on government and where agencies are making progress is Nadia Hansen, Global Digital Transformation Executive at Salesforce. Nadia, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about our conversation today.
We are too. I'm particularly interested to speak to you based on your experience in the field. And based on that experience and supporting state and local government, what are the challenges that government leaders are facing today in this new age of AI when it comes to their workforces? And how can leaders help their teams adapt successfully? And what gaps need to be filled first?
I have the privilege of serving in government for 15 years prior to joining Salesforce. And in government, one of the biggest challenges we have is capacity. So agencies are being asked to do more with less, whether it is serving a growing population, whether it is managing crisis or modernizing decade-old systems. And often we're constrained with budgets, talent shortages. So AI is arriving at a moment when governments desperately need new tools. But the real challenge is really preparing this workforce to adapt. From my own time as CIO, I saw that it's not just about technology, it's about people, it's about processes. Teams need clarity on what skills should they develop first, and reassurance that AI is really here to augment rather than replace, and training pathways to allow and build that confidence. So this is where programs like Salesforce's Trailhead, which is, by the way, a completely free program, comes in. It democratizes learning. So anyone from an analyst to an IT leader to a department head can log on. They can learn AI fundamentals. They can build practical skills at their own pace. So closing those skill gaps, especially in digital and data literacy, is really the first step to helping public servants succeed in this AI era.
And next, why do government leaders need to treat agentic AI differently from previous generations of AI? And is there an AI playbook to help agencies get started with it?
Yeah, this is my favorite topic. So earlier versions of AI, which by the way, AI has been around for 10 plus years, it was very predictive. It was kind of answering questions like, what might happen? Agentic AI is different. These are autonomous agents that can take action. They don't just recommend, they interact like a human executing tasks. So that's a huge opportunity, but it also means leaders must be very intentional about trust, about oversight, about governance from the very beginning. So the good news here is there is a playbook. So at Salesforce, we emphasize responsible AI by design. And for government agencies, that playbook includes a few critical steps. So I'll narrow it down to the top three. Number one is sponsorship from top leadership. So AI adoption is seen as a priority. It's not just an IT experiment. It's not just something that lives in the cybersecurity department. The second thing is establishing a cross-functional committee. So we need voices from finance, we need voices from HR, legal, procurement, IT, and business units to really act as an oversight group. And that group needs to be established to set the guardrails, to ensure compliance, and really helping align AI with the organizational values and the outcomes that the organization is trying to achieve. And then thirdly, starting small with very clear use cases. So as an example, Simple things like agenda meetings in board meetings or council members, summarizing those notes, summarizing citizen inquiries to kind of build that confidence and really allowing employees to actually embrace it too. Another one I want to mention is I kind of touched on human oversight, but we have to make sure that humans are always in the loop. AI agents are accelerating work, but really the final accountability in public sector stays with the employee. And then last but not the least, measuring outcomes and iterating. So scaling only after trust and impact has been established. So to recap, yes, there is a playbook, but the difference this time is that success depends on aligning technology, aligning people, and governance from day one.
Terrific. Next, can you provide some practical use cases where agentic AI is making a difference in day-to-day lives of government workers? And how are they working alongside AI agents?
Yes, this is where it gets very exciting. So take a caseworker at a social services agency. Instead of spending hours pulling together information from 5 different systems or a plethora of systems, an AI agent, which is your digital helper, your digital buddy, can assemble a case summary instantly. So the caseworker can actually focus on the family that's sitting across from the table. I'll give you another example. Think about permitting and licensing. So AI agents can handle that initial intake, can flag the missing documents, they can draft approval notes. It's really freeing up staff to spend their time on more complex reviews. Another example is emergency management. In case of emergencies, AI agents can now monitor incoming calls. They can prioritize urgent cases based on the business rules that you set up. It can push alerts to first responders faster than any manual process could. So, in each of these examples, the worker always stays in control, with AI being a digital helper, not a replacement, but more on the augmentation side.
And then what foundational steps do you recommend agencies need to take to go about onboarding AI agents to their teams successfully?
There's some best practices. I have the privilege of working now with a lot of different state and local agencies all across the US and some Canada. And what I'm seeing as some of the best practices around starting with skills. So let's start using free platforms like Trailhead to give employees hands on exposure to AI concepts so they feel empowered and not intimidated. Secondly, pick the right use case. So, coming from public sector myself, let's begin with a low risk but high value workflow, like automating reports, like providing executive dashboards for those data driven insights. Thirdly, and I think this is probably the most important one, is establishing governance. You need to have very clear policies on data, how that data is going to be utilized, what does ethics look like, what does accountability look like, and who is going to be providing those guardrails. So I think that is super important as we move through this journey. And then last but not the least, I touched on it earlier, but keeping humans in the loop. And what I really mean by that is ensuring that workers always have a final oversight on the outcome. So AI is always supporting, not replacing judgment. And I think that's important to clarify.
Well, and I'd like to go back to your experience in government. How do you believe that agentic AI is likely to change the future of work for state and local government?
Agentic AI will shift the focus of government work from being administrative, day to day tasks to being more strategic. So, as an example, routine paperwork, scheduling, data entry, some of these manual repetitive tasks will largely be automated. So that way, the workforce can actually spend more time solving problems, engaging directly with communities, designing streamlined, innovative, intuitive services. It's also going to redefine really what talent looks like in government. So we'll need fewer clerical tasks and more people who can think critically about data, who can think critically about ethics, who can think critically about citizen experience or resident experience. And that honestly is a big cultural shift. And it's also an opportunity to make government jobs more meaningful and impactful. So right now, even in the private sector, we're seeing entirely new job categories being created. So as an example, I actually just posted about it on LinkedIn last week. Salesforce is hiring forward deployed engineers. This job actually didn't exist 18 months ago. And these are specialists who sit side by side with customers, who rapidly design, who test, who implement AI solutions in real world settings. So imagine that same concept in government, roles where technologists and public servants are embedded together, co-creating together, and developing workflows that deliver faster, better outcomes for our communities. And that's really the future, new categories of public service work that really blend technology fluency with some of this human-centered mission delivery.
Well, Nadia Hansen, thank you so much for sharing your insights on the role of agentic AI. And interestingly, some of the future roles in government that may enable, and ultimately how agencies can get started taking full advantage of it. So thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. Appreciate you having me.